On Monday, the Jets decided to trade Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for a sixth-round draft pick in this year's draft and a second and fourth rounder in 2022. Like, you've now had a few days to kind of process this trade. So I'm going to ask you now, what do you think of the deal as Sam Darnold leaves New York?
I think it's a big win for the Jets. I really do. I think you get 3 draft picks. You can say, oh, they didn't get a first round pick. They only got the second and the fourth and then the 6th round pick there too. But I still think get any picks for Sam Darnold to win. He is not a first round player right now. I don't think anybody would, knowing what they know about Sam Darnold, spend a first rounder. I don't think anyone would take a second rounder on him if you saw him in the draft. So on that alone, I think the Jets won this trade. And if you look at the Jets, you got a lot of picks on your hands now over the next couple of years. So that's also a win. And if I'm Carolina, I'm not really sure what they're thinking. Obviously, they see something in Sam Darnold. Who am I to say that he's not great, that maybe they see some potential in him? But from what I saw of Sam Darnold in New York, I'm not impressed. I do not see him really evolving into a starter that can lead a team into a playoffs. I think the best situation for him would have been a place like Pittsburgh, would have been a place for him where he can work under a quarterback already, maybe Atlanta with Matt Ryan, somewhere like that, because obviously he lacked leadership in New York and he wasn't able to lead that team anywhere. So a big win for the Jets. I like them getting the picks, and I'm interested to see what they can do in the draft.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to push back a little bit on what you're saying here. I'm a little less optimistic from the Jets' standpoint. I do understand your criticism of Sam Darnold. It is perfectly right and just. But I don't think he's definitely not the future for the Jets at the quarterback position. He's probably not the future at the quarterback position for the Panthers either, but we'll get into that. But my argument is that I'm a little nervous, I guess, with picking a quarterback at number 2 and really a future of your franchise, as the Jets seem to be placing very much importance on this pick and on this quarterback, whoever that may be. It could be Zach Wilson. It could be somebody else. We're not so sure. We'll get into that too. But for me, I think the Jets are very early on in the rebuilding stage. Obviously, new head coach after Gates. And to be honest, you need to improve a lot of positions on both sides of the ball. It isn't really just the quarterback position. And to me, this move to get Sam Darnold out of New York is basically saying, okay, we're going to take a quarterback high in the draft that we think is going to be someone to build this franchise around. That's how I take the move. That's how I take what the Jets are doing. I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not in that organization, so I don't know for sure. Zach Wilson could be that guy. He could be that franchise quarterback to build around, but he also couldn't be. I mean, Sam Darnold, if I'm not mistaken, was taken in the first round, correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah. Yes, he was. So that's exactly my point and almost a little bit of concern I have with taking another quarterback in the first round, kind of going out on a limb, no matter who it is. I mean, Zach Wilson has shown a lot and impressed a lot, and I'm not trying to disregard that because I think he surely can be a good quarterback in the NFL, but I can't guarantee he can be, and no one can guarantee he can be. And for that reason, I get a little, I guess, worried about building your franchise around a newly drafted quarterback when you're trading away your previous savior of the franchise, as it was Sam Darnold. So for me, that's where I'm a little worried about this from the Jets standpoint. I think there's a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done at all positions, and they'll continue to get better at some positions. And it's also about a new culture, which Robert Saleh will introduce to this team. All that's very important. But I feel like the Jets really need to hit on this quarterback pick, on this number 2 selection, and in the draft in general, because they do have a lot of picks, in order for this to be a success and for this trade to make sense.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, my question back to you. I mean, do you see Sam Darnold being the answer for the Jets ever?
No. And that's the thing is
then you got to trade him, I feel like, because
right.
If you don't think he's the answer, then you got to get some return on him now. I mean, 2 years go down the line, and let's say some backup for the Jets starts catching fire, and now Darnold's the bench guy, the backup. You're not getting anything in return for him. So you get him out now, and listen, they could draft Zach Wilson and he could stink. I really like Zach Wilson. I think he's going to be good. But he could be Sam Darnold and just not perform. But in any year, I think this is the year to get a QB because we're not getting a class like this in a while. I mean, Sam Darnold's class is actually pretty good. I mean, you look back on it now, he happened to want to be the guy who's not good. But, I memean, I think that if you're going to get a QB, this is the draft to do it. And I think we both agree just now, Sam Darnold's not the answer.
Yes. Yeah. And I totally agree with that. And no, Sam Darnold is not the future. But for me, I think I prefer for a rebuilding franchise, kind of like a bridge quarterback situation, almost like a filler quarterback, somebody in there that's a decent player that can win your team a couple games. But if I'm being perfectly honest, the Jets win total next season doesn't really matter that much at all because this is the start of a rebuild. And sure, they're not going to win a lot of games. I mean, sure, it would be nice for the Jets to win 4 or 5 games. That would make them feel well. But in the scheme of things, it doesn't matter too much. For me, it's about rebuilding this team, and it's not just the quarterback position, it's everywhere. So that's why I think maybe more of a bridge quarterback or somebody to kind of like placehold for maybe a quarterback in free agency or a quarterback down the road that they really think is a centerpiece to build around. That's the route I would have preferred or maybe considered, but obviously, I get the other side of it because you're right. This is a really good draft class for the quarterback position. I mean, we're going to see quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3 in the draft, probably, maybe even 1, 2, 3, 4, which I think is incredible. That hasn't happened in a while. So that's a totally justified point. Is that this is a really good draft class, and you are getting a decent amount of picks in return, like you said. This is a good trade for the Jets from that standpoint. You're really helping. Like I keep saying, this is a rebuild. Well, those draft picks are going to help. Accumulating those draft picks and getting guys in the second round or even in the later rounds as well. Those are going to be the guys that are filling out your team. So overall, from that standpoint, I was a little critical of the move for sure. But at the end of the day, the Jets are getting draft picks. And I guess if you're a Jets fan, you just have to hope that Zach Wilson is your quarterback and is your guy to kind of build around in New York.
Yeah, I think that's important. I also think you have to consider the fact that with Gase leaving, it's hard to have a QB have to work with a new head coach. I mean, I think having a new head coach and a new QB makes sense. So if you get a QB in this draft, he is working with a new system. If you get Sam Darnold, I think it'd be hard for him to have to work with a new system. I think it could be done, but it's just not something you would want with a franchise. And that's another reason why I think it makes sense to get him out now. And picks are picks. 2nd, 4th, and 6th, I guess you can say, they're not top picks, but I'll take a 2nd, 4th, and 6th over Sam Darnold any day of the week. I think you can find a better player there than Sam Darnold is.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I mean, I want to say this too. For Sam Darnold, from a personal standpoint, I think this is a big trade for him, and I think it's a really good trade for him because he gets a totally fresh start. He gets a new team. He gets a better coach, and he gets better players around him. I mean, he gets Christian McCaffrey in the backfield to hand the ball off to. That must be nice as a quarterback, but also throw to. And then you have some pretty good receivers out there as well, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, 2 decent receivers to throw to. I think the Sam Darnold excuses are over at this point because he finally has at least a decent offense to throw to and kind of play with. So I think that from a personal standpoint for Sam Darnold, I think this is a good move for him. And then also the Carolina Panthers, we should get into them too right now. This move is a little bit confusing, I would say. I think Sam Darnold, I guess they see something in him. They see that Sam Darnold could have a better future with the Carolina Panthers than he did with the New York Jets, obviously, because they gave up a little bit of their future for him. And he certainly could have the potential to do so, I think. Like I just said, they do have weapons on the offensive side of the ball that will help Sam. And maybe that's just the confidence boost he needs. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery to really boost his game. But for me, for the Carolina Panthers, I don't think Sam Darnold is your franchise quarterback at all. I don't think Sam Darnold's franchise quarterback anywhere, to be honest. So that's why this move, I guess, confuses me a little bit from Carolina's perspective, because they also have Teddy Bridgewater, and what are they going to do with those 2 guys? And then they also talked about they're not ruling out taking a quarterback in the draft so they could also draft a
Yeah.
quarterback. That leaves 3 quarterbacks, and then all of a sudden, I have no idea what's going on in Carolina.
Yeah, I don't understand the move really. I mean, obviously, they're looking for a quarterback and they're willing to give Sam Darnold a shot. Yeah, obviously upgrade lines if you're Sam Darnold. I don't think Carolina is a stunning offensive line. I think they're probably middle in the NFL if you had to rank offensive lines. I mean, you're going from the Jets though, which might be the worst offensive line in the NFL. So obviously an upgrade for Sam Darnold, and he's struggled a lot with pass protection and having time to throw the ball. So I understand how this move might help Sam Darnold. I think he might be the next winner next to the Jets. If you had to say winners in this trade, it'd be Sam Darnold and the Jets. I don't see the Carolina as a winner here. I mean, obviously you pair Sam Darnold and McCaffrey, maybe something that can happen, but I was a fan of Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's a better guy for that role. And you talked about bridge quarterbacks. I think Teddy Bridgewater is one of those guys that's pretty good at it. I mean, he did that with the Saints before they got Drew Brees got back. I think he could do it with Carolina if they want to get a QB. If I'm the Panthers, I would have rather keep my picks and take a guy like Kyle Trask at their in the first round. But obviously they went a different route, and I guess they see something in Sam Darnold that maybe me and you don't.